Hello there. It's time for me to tell you about the second time, and so far the final time that I went to the movie theater this year. Um, I switched my setup some. I dug out my old, old, old ancient camcorder. Uh, from a hidden location. It took a while to find it, but it seems to be working. So anyway, I went with my friends to the movie theater, and we saw two movies that day. I'll save the other one for later, but the first one we saw was the movie Touch, directed by the Icelandic Baltasar Kormákur. I think that's how it's pronounced. He also wrote the script based on a novel by Olafur Johan Olafsson. So that's Olaf Olafsson. Are you in actual fact kittying me, Iceland? Can you think of better names, please? Of Kormákur's previous films, I have seen Two Guns from 2013, Everest from 2015, I believe, and Beast from 2022. I remember liking Two Guns, mostly because of Denzel. I'm also partial to Marky Mark's performances as himself. Uh, he can be entertaining sometimes. But I haven't watched the movie since the year it came out. It might be a fun rewatch. Everest, I remember being an alright movie. It looked great with the scenery and everything. The acting was good. Jake Gyllenhaal is one of my favorite actors of his generation. Um, I remember it pretty well still. I won't rewatch it for another 5 years, I'm thinking. Um, Beast was a movie that was definitely released in the year 2022. It was okay at best. It really wasn't anything special. I remember the acting not being one of the redeeming factors for the boring, unevenly written characters. I didn't like him at all. Um, that's a movie I probably won't be watching ever again, unless forced to at gunpoint. So clearly, Mr. Kormákur is a man of many genres and has some successful ventures into Hollywood territory as well. Commendable. This movie, Touch, however, feels much more personal and homegrown, and it's even filmed partially in Iceland. The main character, who is also Icelandic, of course, the elderly Christopher, he learns that his mind and memory are deteriorating quite rapidly. His doctor tells him that, okay, if you have any unresolved family issues or people you haven't seen in a long while, you should probably get around to that in the next 6 months or so. So he decides to go on a journey to seek out his first love, who disappeared from his life 50 years prior. And he does this right before the travel restrictions were put in place during the 2020 the Backstreet Boys reunion tour. So that complicates his journey a bit, but probably not as much as you'd expect. It's it's really a surprisingly minor issue in this. Anyway, we learn about Christopher and his relationship with his former lover through flashbacks to 1969 London, when he started working in a Japanese restaurant. Christopher is definitely a charming character, uh, personable, but during the flashback parts of the movie, he comes across as this really idealistic tryhard. Uh, the sure the revolutionary element is part of his character, but he's suddenly really interested in Japanese language, customs, and food. He suddenly has all this ambition to ascend the Japanese restaurant ladder. And that's a thing I didn't really entirely buy from his character. Uh, Also, he learns Japanese incredibly well and incredibly fast, from a couple of books he found. Uh, but he does have the added advantage of having native speakers as his co-workers and his employer. So I'm thinking that's probably an ideal learning environment if you want to learn Japanese. But I'm supposed to believe that all of this comes from him seeing Miko, one of his future co-workers, for the first time, before he even applies for the restaurant job as a dishwasher. Has he really been this aloof and aimless for this long in his life? He's like in his mid-20s or something. Does he have a will of his own? I don't know. Miko, the person Christopher falls for, is, you guessed it, the daughter of the restaurant owner, and he would never approve of her daughter dating a filthy gaijin, even though they live in England. This plot point is derivative for sure and predictable, and sounds like a really thin excuse for needless drama on paper. But the acting is so good that it really comes across as genuine, and I can bring myself to understand where all these characters are coming from, including the father. The father isn't treated like a straight up villain or anything. He has a history to him. And this is much appreciated because he was one of my favorite supporting characters. Miko herself is a well-developed character with a really, really tragic backstory. Her whole family has a tragic backstory. You can probably guess it has something to do with World War II, and it is appropriately harrowing, but rather tastefully executed, the backstory. I shouldn't say executed when talking about World War II. But I really like Miko's character and her backstory. Really, the acting is what carries this movie. Both the old and young versions of the characters are very believably acted. I couldn't really detect any cracks of pretense, except for some of Christopher's try-hard weeb shit. There is so much human warmth in the characters, and really, as a result of that, the story and ending are very heartwarming, and sweet. Additional point, I really like the music in this. The score is very good, but there's a lot of licensed music too, and they reference a few others. I've actually listened to one of the songs that plays in this movie afterwards on my own. It's the one that plays. It's the one that my other favorite supporting character sings in a karaoke bar. Uh, I think it's called. I have it here. Mata au himade, performed by Kiyohiko Ozaki. Absolute banger. I'll link it in the description. I found another version that has like a big jazz band in the background. It's great. Another standout is the song that Christopher sings at various points in the story. And if you don't pay attention to it the first time, don't worry. You're going to hear it at least 3 more times throughout the film. It's a really good song. It's pretty. And it has very emotional impact. It has more emotional impact every time he performs it. Okay, in conclusion, touch may perhaps be derivative, both in story and execution, characters as well, but it's a very effective drama with really really likable characters that feel genuine, with only a few cracks. there are some delightful intercultural elements and also some harrowing historical events dealt with here. Overall, a highly enjoyable movie. I'm giving this one a 7 out of 10. And in another video, I'll tell you about the second movie we saw that day. And it was a whole different experience. Okay, take care. Bye.